You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is June 10th, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today it's going to be another show focused on Sacramento, so we're really getting to spend some quality time with some of the exciting things happening here in Sacramento recently. So before we get into the show, though, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. Upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And our lower right-hand corner, we have our special guest today, Debbie Redhat of Sacramento, and she is with the We the People group. And they're kind of a local organization that has been organizing for liberty. And I'm going to show a few of these links right at the beginning. So this way, if you don't make it to the end of the show, you still know where to go to find out more. So Leon, maybe you could share the visual here. So what I'm sharing now is a link to the this is the Constitution class. So this is one I've attended a few times, and that meets every other Thursday, and it's open to everybody, right, Debbie? It's pretty much anybody who's interested in learning more about the Constitution.
Yes, it's a We the People, and it's nonpartisan. The Constitution does not indicate any parties, so it's for everyone that loves liberty.
Excellent. And they also have on the alternating Thursdays, they have what's called a committee of safety meeting. And this is where the activism happens, where they actually decide, what issues are important enough to go engage the local leaders on and try and make them aware. That pretty much sum it up correctly, Debbie?
Yes, it's a group of concerned. We are there as the Committee of Safety, which was a historical organization before the revolution. And the Committees of Safety are now forming again. And it's a wonderful way to get involved and to find other patriots that are interested in liberty.
So what is the goal? I mean, what it is the Committee of Safety is trying to achieve?
We're trying to get the government to get back in the box. The Constitution is written to give enumerated powers to our government. It has a purpose, a specific purpose, and it has certain things that they can do and certain things that they can't. And the Committee of Safety is learning the Constitution, and we are instructing our servants who are elected to get back in that box. Does that make sense?
Yes, and specifically, it does. Yes. The box we're going to talk about today is mainly around issues of election integrity. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, because obviously, if you saw what happened in 2020, everything sort of went out the window on whatever the established rules were with elections. And so we're going to get into some of the activism that Debbie's group is doing on that. They also have another web page, too, that they just got up, so we thought we'd show that as well. And Debbie, I don't know if you want to say anything real quick about that as well.
One of the ways that we're instructing our servants is to give them lawful notice, which is part of due process, to let them know that we have read the Constitution and we are instructing them to follow it. And if we would love everyone to click on our notices and sign them, send them in. We've already served Governor Newsom and the Secretary of State. And so if you go ahead and scroll around if you want, but at the top, Jason, click on where it says notices. You can click on our election maladministration notice, and there is a link there where you can print it out, sign it, send it to your Board of Supervisors, to your Registrar of Voters, send it to the governor, send it to the Secretary of State and the Assembly and the Senate, and participate. This is our government, but if we don't speak up and instruct our servants, then they just take over and do whatever they want.
Yes. Well, and so we're going to get into talking about this whole issue with election integrity. That's going to be the focus. If we have time, we're also going to talk about SLAPP lawsuits, the ways that government might kind of strike back at local activism as well. So it seems kind of appropriate to talk with somebody who is actually doing local activism about that. And finally, we'll talk about our Knucklehead Noise Patrol at the very end, where we talk about something silly that somebody said or did. Anyways, so let's jump right into our Liberty quote of the day. So this time it's a slightly different. Oh, and by the way, here is contact information for Debbie's We the People group as well. So you can also, you could have gone to the previous one was, I think, We the People .california.com. I think it was.
We the People notices ca.com.
Oh, yeah.
We the People notices ca.com.
Yeah. So there's that. And for the Constitution class, I guess it's www.saccdg.org. And then you can also contact Debbie at info@saccdg.org as well.
Well, that email has been, that doesn't work anymore because now we have it connected to the website.
Okay, so, great. Then
but
disregard
that's okay.
This page. Sorry about that. Changes are happening with this group right under our feet.
They can contact us at the top of that page. See where it says contact?
Okay.
They can click on that and we will get back to them.
Excellent. So excellent, exciting things happening. So let's talk about election fraud, and usually the place I guess we always start the show with a Liberty quote. This time it's a slightly different kind of Liberty quote. Usually it's somebody inspirational. This time it's somebody absolutely infamous, but they're sort of an expert on election fraud, and it's the type of thing we want to avoid if we want liberty. So I figured I would use a quote from our favorite communist, Joseph Stalin. He actually had a quote.
Our favorite communist, Jason, there's such a thing.
He's our favorite example of what can happen if you go all in on communism. So Joseph Stalin, of course, was the Soviet head of state from 1924 to 1953, and he's known for murdering over millions of his own citizens. So, it's kind of a common theme for those countries to go all in on communism. So anyways, he actually said that, and this was recorded by, I guess, in the memoirs of his secretary, I think, but it said, I consider it completely unimportant who in the party will vote or how, but what is extraordinarily important is this: who will count the votes and how. And I think that is what we're all concerned with election integrity, is what's especially after what we saw in 2020. And just to give you a little bit of historical, sort of a little bit of historical context on this, I thought I'd share a few news stories. This was a paper from back in those days, and it said, this is from December 17th, 1937. It said, everyone voted for Stalin. Wow. Gee, he must have been a popular guy.
Really.
But it's funny, the madness doesn't just end back in history. I mean, here's the case Kim Jong-un in North Korea. 100% of the votes for little Kim. It's funny how that happens. And of course, our old buddy, used to be buddy of the United States, Saddam Hussein, and then suddenly became our enemy, but also 100% of the ballot. Just amazing, how popular these guys are. I mean, if only Joe Biden could get some of those secrets.
I'm telling you.
But, it's funny, though, because we sit there and we laugh about these things in the past, but I mean, these things have, I guess, real implications on today. And, we had recently interviewed, I think, Jim Lakely from the Heartland Institute, and they had done a poll, and it was called "Who Really Won the 2020 Election?" And so they had actually done a poll with Rasmussen. And they found that 1 in 5 people that they polled admitted to some kind of fraud that was happening there. So that's a show you can go back and check out. We did that about 4 months ago or so. But yeah, and here's an article that was essentially publishing those results as well. But it's funny because, you know, we had some kind of crazy things happening with all the changes during COVID that happened to the elections. And, you know, they shut down the vote counting. And suddenly, as in this AP article, almost all the votes after they stopped counting came back for Biden. So maybe he found a little bit of that Stalin magic or something in the middle of the night.
He did, right? You know what they're saying is Biden got 81 million votes. He just did not get it from 81 million people. Okay, so take note.
And this is from the AP, an article that came out on November 4th, 2020. So that's sort of what people were talking about then. But anyways, before we go, I guess, any farther in looking at recent cases of election fraud, I want to talk about what people are doing about it here. And so Debbie's group is actually going, and they're trying to hold local, people responsible, or I guess put them on notice of their responsibilities under the Constitution. And so, Debbie, we're going to show some video, but did you want to preface any of it before we show it?
Well, we're setting up different jurisdictions now in Sacramento County, Placer County, El Dorado County, Nevada County. And if you want your county to participate also, get in contact with us and we'll set up a schedule that you can put your county on notice also. We have a cookie cutter plan where you can just copy our script and how we do it and our delivery notices. So we're making it easy for everyone. We have 58 counties. And if we take care of 4 and you take care of 4 and we can get 58 done in a couple weeks. What do you think?
Oh, yes.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, let's show you all what Debbie's group is doing. And I think it's really informative because I'm really impressed as I listen to it, the level of detail that they get into. They're not just ranting and screaming at these people. They are showing logical reasoning and essentially, well, it's not statute, it's just constitutional responsibilities that these people are responsible for. This was from May 21st, I think, where they went to the Sacramento Board of Supervisors to talk to them about their responsibilities. And so it's a little bit of a long testimony. So we're going to break it up into segments for each person who testified in the group. So let's start out with KOL 1, Leon.
Is Sandy.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Sandy, and I'm here as one of We the People. We thank you for agreeing to be servants of the people, for having taken your oaths of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. We are here in peace to give you notice and instruction so that you and your agents may provide due care. This notice of election maladministration has been given to the California Governor, the California Secretary of State, the California Supreme Court, to the California Senate and Assembly. We are now giving you a copy. In the past 4 years, we have witnessed the form of elections change from one day to an election season without the consent of the people. However, we have learned that the government was never granted any authority to change the ways of elections, not even in times of emergency. Despite adamant claims, there are no instances of election malfeasance, that the election process is to be trusted as certified. We have learned that there are multiple cases of election maladministration, including in the city of Lodi, California, where a council member has been convicted of election fraud. We have included copies of court cases in the notice packets just given to you. Please take notice that the people have assembled together, consulted peaceably by right, and realize that our servants in every state, as well as the federal government, have been led to believe that they are generating the basic rules and terms of elections. However, the people now know that the foundational law in the Constitution are the rules which must be followed with exact due regard.
So right away, she's going in and she's setting up, hey, look, there are certain rules you guys have to follow. And we're seeing some people are essentially committing fraud out there. And we want to make sure you guys are sticking to those. Is that a pretty good summary of what she said? And Demi, and I'm going to get to all of the other people who testified as well. So, we can hit those one at a time.
Yes, she was setting it up, what we had put in the packets that we handed out to the clerk, and the clerk distributed them to the 5 board of supervisors. So they were each opening their envelope and looking inside.
Okay.
You know, Debbie, I mean, it's fascinating to me that these people who call themselves members of our government or governing class, at some point in time, they moved away from the concept of being our servants, because I don't think they think of themselves that way anymore. When do you think that happened?
Well, historically, they've been inching in that direction since 1913, and they've been putting into place an administrative government instead of a constitutional government. And we probably could have gone and limped along for another 100 years under this, but they crossed the line in 2020 by locking us down, and we all started going, what the heck is happening here? The elections went upside down, our freedoms went out the window, and quite frankly, a lot of us woke up because of that. But I would have gone a long time paying my taxes and being okay with the Federal Reserve being at $34 trillion in debt. And now I'm questioning everything. So
I find that's a common theme for people, but let's go through and knock these out before we get too far off into the weeds. So the next person is going to be Dave, who comes up, and I find this fascinating too, that you guys have this team that's well coordinated and you all bringing in something extra. So it's really telling these people a message that, hey, this isn't just one person. There's a group of us and we're concerned. So can you play KOL 2, Leon?
My name is Dave. I'm with We the People. Please take notice that California Constitution Article 4, Section 2 grants power to the government to hold our elections on a single day. Furthermore, the California Constitution prohibits improper practices and disqualifies all votes from underage, non-resident, non-citizen, mentally incompetent, and felons incarcerated or on parole. Any deviation from the Constitution results in nullification of election. Maxim 46D states where the law prescribes a form, the non-observant of it is fatal to the proceeding. The main object of government is the protection and preservation of personal rights, private property, and public liabilities. The government just serves for our benefit as public officers, trustees, servants of the people. Since this board has a history of certifying elections that have not followed the exact form specified in the Constitution, we are very concerned that another maladministrated election will occur in our fair county. Thank you.
So that was Dave, and he was saying that essentially, hey, look, these are only supposed to happen according to the Constitution on one day. It's not supposed to be 1 week, 1 month. And, also, too, it's supposed to be citizens as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Debbie, I'm going to try and jump through most of these so we don't lose our public access audience before we get through this whole thing. So James, or Leon, maybe we can take it to KOL 3. So that'll be Debbie. So she's in the spotlight this time.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm with We the People. Please take notice that in our Republican form of government, all servants have sworn to protect our rights to the constitutional elections as a condition to be hired as trustees. As an elected official, do you believe it's your duty to always uphold the form of lawful elections as written in the Constitution? Or do you believe that you've been granted authority to conduct elections, count the votes, and certify election results that deviate from the Constitution? If so, please show constitutional authority granting you that power to change the form of the people's elections within the next 15 days, sworn under penalty of perjury by affidavit, and posted this granted authority conspicuously, notifying the public and all agents, or you agree by acquiescence that all statements in this notice to be true and fact. If you cannot show where you got the authority and you take any action to certify future elections which do not follow the constitutions, your actions will be construed as being done with malice, intent, full knowledge, and purposeful transgression against your trust indenture, your contract with the people. That would be the Constitution. This notice is given in peace and with the love of Christ, that you and your agents may provide due care to those who have all political power, the people. Thank you.
I love that you put them on notice that, hey, look, we're watching and we've asked you, what authority do you have to make these changes? Now, maybe they'll come back with a reason, but the point is you put them on notice. So if they just ignore it, maybe there could be some legal consequences down the line, I'm hoping. So it sounds great.
It's the first step. It is.
So when was the notice? I'm sorry, Debbie. When was the notice given?
Oh, yeah. A couple weeks ago. Yes.
That was May 21st was when that particular one was given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, let's jump. We got another person, and then we also have the response of the city board as well, or at least one board member anyways. So let's go to KOL 4, and this will be Catherine.
Good morning. My name is Catherine. We, the people, have studied and learned we have a guaranteed right to proper and lawful elections. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in the Smith versus Parisi case that shall means shall. Furthermore, John Locke, a father of fundamental law in America, explains that if servants change the way of elections, those are not to be considered valid elections. The California Constitution, Article 4, Section 2B says, elections shall be on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of even-numbered years. The Webster's American Dictionary of 1828 defines the word day as the whole time period of one revolution of the earth on its axis, or 24 hours, called the natural day. And when a legal instrument is dated, a day begins at the end at midnight. And the maxims of law say where the law prescribes a form, the non-observance of it is fatal to the proceeding, and the whole becomes a nullity. Therefore, as one of the people, I am instructing you as my public servants to immediately return back to the foundational state and federal election laws as seen in the constitutions. It is the will of the people that you correct all errors and nullify any elections that do not meet the prescribed form by the people. I am saying this in peace and with the love of Christ, that you may provide due care to those who have political power, we the people. Thank you.
So I love that she gets into really specific definitions so that some creepy politician can't start arguing, well, what does the word is mean? Something like that, right? So I thought that was great. But, you know, there's also a response from Sue Frost, who is one of the board supervisors. And so we took out a snippet of that. And I think this is important because it shows somebody who is responding to, hey, is this it seems like the response you guys are looking for from city board or county board members or any of these city councils. So maybe we could play that real quick too, Leon. It's KOL 5.
We received information in here that is stating that there are lawful reasons why our elections are not lawful, and they've asked us to respond in a specific period of time. And so I'm asking if County Council can respond to their questions. There were questions in this packet that were very specific to the law and the Constitution. And so I guess my special request is, could we have a response from our county council to help us sort through this within 10 days or so?
And so that was essentially the whole of the video that you guys had out. So anyway, I thought it was marvelous. I mean, you guys really covered a lot of stuff. You guys gave them clear instructions. You guys cited a code, a constitutional statute, all that stuff. It specifically, boy, I mean, it's like you guys seem like you really got your act together.
Well, we've been reading the Constitution, and we've found that it has very clear language. And we've also been giving notices to the Supreme Court and to the United States House of Representatives, and they have actually been responding to us. We're not going to get a letter back from the Supreme Court saying, "Oh, hey, Deb, we got your letter." But when we ask them to follow the form of law and they write a decision like the Sparisi case, says, look, words matter. The word shall means shall. And the words that you're choosing have to follow the Constitution. So we're noticing there has been a real shift with the Supreme Court. That's giving us some real hope that if the Supreme Court will back up the Constitution, and we come from the lower jurisdictions, the cities, the counties, and then go up, then there'll be sort of like a squeezing of the governors and the state level, because there's no place for them to go. If the Supreme Court isn't going to entertain nonsense, then we really feel encouraged that we're following the law. The laws come from God. God is good. And, that's all we have to do is live upright lives. And, we're asking them to repent. And that's what we're doing. So, and then we're laughing about it along the way.
Yeah. Debbie, I have a question on your one day, one vote poster. In the Constitution, does it have all these things that are listed there? Voter ID required, hand count, a paper ballot, smaller precinct polling locations, no machines, no mail-in absentee ballots except for military or disabled, those who cannot be at the polling station, and then announce the winners on election day. Is that all in the Constitution in that same section that you talked about before?
We are not holding them accountable for all these details. We're putting in a election best practices page in our notices that this is what we would like to happen. This is the way we have been doing it. In the last 4 years, Sacramento County no longer has precincts. No longer can you go to someone's garage and vote and then have them count the votes and then send that total to the next level and then the next level and the next level.
Let me break in real quick, Debbie, and then we'll get right back to you. But for our public access audience, we've got to let you go, but you can catch the rest of this conversation online. So you go check us out at knuckleheadsofliberty.com or on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. So you can catch us on a few different places, but you catch this or more conversations we've had as well. So back to the show.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Jason.
Debbie. Sorry.
So we were, can you remind me where I was, Jason?
Gosh, I'm trying to
you were on the banner. There were a bunch of things that Tim was talking about. Tim was talking about all those things. Are those details in the Constitution?
Yes. The election best practices. We would like to go back to the way that it was. Announce the winners on election day. If you request a ballot, you can get a ballot if you have a real good reason, but sending ballots out to anyone and everyone and not having any accountability. I do know that we have 88 ballot boxes littering the county. They're not being observed. There's no cameras on them, and they're out there for a whole month. And there's no accountability for the ballots or the votes. We have ballot harvesting. And what they do now is they gather all the ballots and then they send them to one place. And then it takes a couple of weeks for them to open them up, scan them into the counters, and the machines do the counting now. And it's all counted in one place. And yes, it's very efficient. But as Jason said in the quote from Stalin, I care not who votes. I care who counts the votes. And so, yes, in the Constitution is very specific that it is to be a United States citizen, be 18 years of age, and a citizen and a resident of California. Those things are not being verified at all. The Department of Motor Vehicles is not verifying citizenship. They're not So I did not quote the Constitution on that one because I didn't want to get into splitting frog hairs. If they'll go back to a one-day election, we're heading in the right direction. But yes, Tim, that was a very, very good question.
So, so Debbie, I am Tim. Did you have something else, Tim? I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I don't know when I'm going to have to break free here, but yeah, my other question, I guess I just beg to differ a little bit with Debbie about how efficient the new system is, having to wait however long it was. I remember very distinctly multiple times in past elections where you would have the results by the end of the day. I mean, you would know pretty much by the time you went to sleep or watch the 11 o'clock news maybe. By midnight, I mean, it was a done deal. I mean, they would have it all counted, and they'd know who was going to win usually, and all that. So and it was like we said, it was all done in one day. Boom, everybody went in, everybody voted. Everybody could get a free time. Well, except the black people, of course. They can't do anything. Right? They couldn't do it. Well, that was a joke, folks. That was a joke. Okay.
I know it was a joke. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Tim, Debbie, you've already been around us long enough. But for the audience, anybody looking at that,
Tim, well, you mentioned the one night thing, and I mean, I think it takes as long now as it takes them to get the result they want, right?
Yeah, exactly. How long is going to take for them to find a few extra votes in a drawer somewhere? In a warehouse somewhere, all that kind of stuff. But the question that I have, though, Debbie, you speak about going back to the way it was. The issue, really and truly, I don't think is about going back to the way it was. But are you saying you want to go back to the time when we had some level of election integrity, so that we could have confidence in the result at the end? And if that is what you're aiming for, is that the constitutional boundaries that we need in order to make sure that we have secure, fair, and competent elections? Am I making sense of my question?
Yes, we're all concerned about election integrity. Both parties are want it, but it's obvious in California that there's only a one-party state. There's a lot of power involved in being a one-party state, and I just want them to follow the Constitution. The Constitution was given to us by wonderful forefathers. They knew what a king, the tyranny of a king. They were breaking away from that, and they wanted us, and as their posterity, to have a free country. And they wrote down our rights in the Constitution. And really, they're beautiful, beautiful things hidden in the first article of each of the 50 state constitutions. Wonderful, wonderful rights. And we need to get back to reading all of the constitutions because they belong to all of us.
Okay, let me ask one more time. I mean, I totally agree with you, but I'm trying to make a point here.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's take as Tim's favorite example, voter ID. Okay, I don't think there's anywhere in the Constitution that says voter ID is required. In the federal Constitution I'm talking about, voter ID is required. Now, I think it's a good thing for election integrity. So where would we the people, get the authority to mandate, to force our legislators to mandate that everyone should prove that they are citizen, or in some manner prove who they are before they are able to vote? What is the linkage? What is the linkage between being able to vote and being a citizen of the United States? Where in the Constitution do we get that authority?
Where does it say? Okay. If you go to California Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, 2, 3, and 4, it says that a U.S. citizen over the age of 18 and a resident of California may vote. Okay. That's in writing. But what I've done in the last 3 years is I've written to the Department of Motor Vehicles. I've done a request for information of how do they verify citizenship, and I got a letter back from the attorney, and he said, no, we don't keep any information at all on birthplaces or citizenship at the Department of Motor Vehicles. We just allow everyone to register on the honor system.
Oh. That is exactly what I was getting to, and you answered that question beautifully. Thank you. So this is the issue, that we must be able to have some mechanism, and voter ID seems like the best way to do so. Some mechanism to verify who is a citizen and who is not, and who can vote and who cannot. Okay, so I think that's very good. Thank you.
Well, you know what's crazy is they just literally forced us all to get real ID just so we could get on an airplane.
Exactly.
They've already got a strategy in place we could tap into. Real ID has already rolled out, and they just keep pushing the deadline back and back. But in what they call third world countries, which whatever that means, they have systems in place where one person will put their finger in the indelible ink, and they can't, it's one day and they can't vote again. So that's a strategy. So what I'm saying is, I don't like the strategy they're using. I know that the Constitution says that I have a right to instruct my servants. That means you do too. And we're doing this thoughtfully, scholarly, and we're trying to use wisdom. We're not here to cause a big fight. We're not here to threaten anyone. We're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to get our country back.
Indeed. And just on a personal story very quickly, the only time I voted in an election outside the United States was in Trinidad. And just like you said, we had to dip our finger after we voted. We had to dip our finger into some ink. It stained our finger. We could not vote again. And that ink stayed on our fingers actually for about 3 or 4 days before we were able to get it off. So yes, it was relatively secure if in that sense. Yes.
Yeah, it was funny when you brought up third world countries, Debbie, because I was thinking to myself, man, if Biden wins again, we may know what it means to be a third world country pretty soon. But it's funny though, because there are a lot of implications to what you guys are talking about. I mean, we talked jokingly about things that have happened in the past under these apparent dictatorships where, you know, people win 100% of the vote when there's an election. But you know, Democrats are, especially Democrats, they're generally telling us that there is, you know, nothing to worry about with election fraud unless it's 2016. Then you have everything to worry about with election fraud. But it's funny because we have all of these examples, and it's almost like we're being gaslit that there's nothing to worry about. Just keep. And so I'm going to show a few. so Leon, maybe you could bring up the visual real quick. So here is, like, for instance, Donna Brazil, when she was both the I believe she was the chair of the DNC. I think she was.
She was at one time. Yes.
Yeah, and then she was also a CNN contributor as well. And I mean, she was literally passing information to Hillary during the Democrat primaries to rig it against Bernie. And, here's an article from CNN that said, hey, she said the 2016 primary was rigged before she said it wasn't. And we have all these other examples too. Like, here is Hillary Clinton saying that the 2016 election was not on the level. Now, oddly, they don't want us to be concerned about any elections other than that one. But we heard her talking forever about that. A lot of Democrat senators have warned us about potential vote switching by Dominion machines prior to 2020, after they'd been through 2016, but before they got the results they wanted in 2020. And of course, Elizabeth Warren has been talking up the fact that she also feels that we need to make really sure that all these things are secure. And after 2020, they said, don't look at the Dominion machines. We're not concerned with them at all. So, but it's just absolutely crazy. And it's funny too. I did have this one little story. I thought it was weird. It was the most bizarre case of election fraud, and this is from Popular Science, and they were mentioning this thing. I think it was from Liberia or someplace. Let's see, where was it? So this was in Liberia. And it said that it was a landslide victory of 234,000 to 9,000, despite that there were only 15,000 eligible voters. So I just thought that was an absolutely crazy case. But you guys actually mentioned a local case of election fraud, which was Lodi. And so here was a case of a guy. He was a Democrat city councilman in Lodi, and he got hit charged with election fraud, among other things. In fact, we have a little clip, but this was something you guys mentioned in your testimony too. And so, Leon, this would be KOL 6.
Former Lodi City Councilman is headed to prison. Shakir Khan just took a plea deal on election fraud and illegal gambling charges.
Let's get right to CBS 13's Ashley Sharp at the breaking news desk. Ashley.
Hey guys, it was announced this afternoon Shakir Khan pleaded no contest to 77 charges against him in 3 different cases. Now, of those, more than 40 counts were connected to illegal gambling, money laundering, tax evasion, and grand theft. Another more than 20 counts involved false claims regarding COVID-19 reimbursements. And then the final 14 counts were charges of election fraud in connection to the 2020 election.
So that was a case. It's just, about a 30-minute drive from Sacramento. So, I mean, this stuff is happening. But also, too, there was another story we covered on our show as well about, back when we had Jim Lakely, I guess, on from Heartland. And it was a case in Connecticut where essentially in Bridgeport, Connecticut, there were 2 mayoral candidates, both Democrats, and they both got caught cheating against one another. And we have this video from that as well, and it's KOL 7. Maybe you could show that really quick of their investigative report.
30 allegations of absentee ballot fraud in Bridgeport, all after video was leaked showing a woman stuffing envelopes into the ballot drop box. A lot of people have a lot of questions now.
John Gomes' campaign Facebook page shows a woman whom he claims to be a supporter of Mayor Joe Ganim and a City Hall employee stuffing envelopes into the absentee ballot drop box outside the government center a number of times in the early morning hours of September 5th. Gomes lost last week's Democratic primary to Ganim by just 251 votes. On election night, Gomes had a lead thanks to the in-person voting at the polls, but the absentees, which Ganim won by nearly a 2-to-1 margin, pushed him over the top. It should be noted, according to the Secretary of the State's office, only a voter, a designee of a voter who has an illness or a disability or a family member is allowed to mail or put a ballot in a drop box.
So nobody went to jail for that one, as far as I know, but they did have to redo the election. So there are costs. But it's funny, we keep hearing this claim that there's no voter fraud from just everybody trying to gaslight us. And Heritage actually then put up a database of this stuff. So I encourage people to go look at it. Here they have 1,513 proven cases of voter fraud. They have over 1,000 criminal convictions mentioned here. And you can actually go find these particular cases. In fact, they have a nice map of the states. You can click on a state, and if you click on California, this is what you'll get, and it's showing a list of them. And if you click on the very first one, it's Shakir Khan, the one we just, or Shakir Khan. That's the guy from Lodi that we talked about in the first story, and it describes exactly what happened in it and shows the source. But it's funny because you can just see all of these cases. There are literally pages after pages of cases of voter fraud that have been documented by Heritage here. Here in this one case, some guy had collected over 8,000 fraudulent registrations, and he had been convicted, 41 count indictment for submitting these things, I guess. The guy's name was Carlos Antonio de Montenegro, I guess. And so there was that case, and there was some other guy who was going down Skid Row in Los Angeles and just signing up people's names, offering them cigarettes and money to get their signatures on things. So, one again, case after case. But anyways, so Debbie, I mean, stuff is happening. So I'm so glad that you guys are out there, despite what we keep being gaslit. That, hey, there's nothing to worry about. Just go ahead and go to the polls and trust in what happens.
Yes. Well, I think also definitions of words are important. What's the difference between certifying an election and actually verifying the citizenship? Can you certify citizenship without looking at any of the documentation? Obviously, that's been going on for a long time. So we're starting to uncover all sorts of different things that I really wasn't paying attention to the last, before the last 4 years. But now I'm awake and I'm paying attention. This is really important to me.
Yeah, it was funny. There was another weird case too, and I don't have it in front of me, but in Texas, I believe it was Texas, there was a district attorney of, I don't remember, it was Austin, or I think it was Dallas actually. And the woman went to the polls to vote, and she found out somebody had already voted in her name.
Yes.
So, but nothing to see here. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Right. See, that's where we go back to having a finger that's dipping that finger.
There you go.
It works really good.
Yeah.
Stay in the finger. Yes.
Well, Debbie, I know this was a case where you guys went here in Sacramento, but are you guys then reaching out all over locally? How exactly are you guys doing all this?
Yes, we're getting lots of interest. We have been contacted by a gal in Yolo County. She wants to get her family and friends involved. I have people in Riverside County and San Diego County that are wanting to do this. If you know anyone, Shasta County has been real verbal and active around election integrity the last 4 years. I'd love to see a team from Shasta County contact us so that we could give them what we know. I obviously can't do it in every county, but now we can teach others. And we the people, we all have the same rights. We all have the same responsibilities to our government. And one of the responsibilities is to pay attention and instruct our servants to follow the Constitution as written.
Indeed. There was a official in the Trump administration who said the 2020 election was the most secure election in our history. And given all the shenanigans that was going on in 2020, that was a very stunning statement. Even though the guy was working for Donald Trump, the guy obviously was not seeking Trump's best interest. But it's just amazing to me that these government officials, they just look us in our face and lie to us about all sorts of things, like whether it's about the need for voter ID or the integrity of our elections or the confidence that we should have in the elections. They look us in the eye and they lie to us day in, day out. So, when I see the things that you Debbie, you and your group are trying to do, it gives me great hope in terms of looking for that election integrity that I think we all need.
Well, we need to look up the words in the dictionary. We need to read the constitutions. We need to go back to basics. And my teacher that I've been studying with for over 2.5 years is Dave Jose. He has a website called restoremyrepublic.com, and he does have a lot of information that I've been tapping into. But compared to what he knows, I know very little, but I do know that it's time for us to take care of this, to read and to come together in unity and stop fighting with each other. We need to get on the same page, and we need to say, this is what the Constitution says. It does not give you permission to do whatever you want. Please get back in the box.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. It's funny though, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I need to market a t-shirt and coffee mug that says I'm woke about voter fraud.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do I owe Debbie some money on that though?
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because it's your idea.
Did we have a bet?
No, but it's your idea. You said
on the t-shirt. Yes.
Now you were asleep for a long time, and now you've awakened to voter fraud. So why not?
I am woke for real.
You've been woke about voter fraud.
Woke, yeah. So I wanted on my title, I put 2 Chronicles 7:14, and there's a really sweet place in the Bible that says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. And that's what I love. We need our land healed. We need to get back to what's right. This is not about the right versus the left. This is about right versus wrong. It's about morals. It's about being a nation of laws, not a lawless nation. And just watching some of the shenanigans that have been going on in the trials in New York and Georgia. It's Georgia, right?
Yes, it's Georgia, yes.
The indictments. And I look at them, I just shake my head and I go, that doesn't say that in the Constitution. Where do they get the authority to just have the judge decide, that someone's guilty before they even have the trial? So we need to go back to right and wrong, not left versus right. How do you feel about that?
Well, this is their definition of a living constitution. Essentially, every day they wake up, and what does it feel like the Constitution should say?
That's unfortunately true. But Debbie, I want to ask you something though about something you just said. Now, I think it cannot be denied that our republic, at least the values of our republic, were inspired by our Judeo-Christian heritage or Judeo-Christian background, however you want to term that. There's no doubt about that. The question that, as I know, our Constitution makes it clear that we must have some kind of separation between church and state. But so far in our discussion, I noticed several times you have appealed to God, the God that I also do believe in. But how I mean, do you think that appeal to God is helpful in achieving the goals that you set out to do? Not that I'm saying it's wrong. I'm just simply saying, will it keep people is
it like putting a cross in front of vampires? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Will it keep us engaged? Especially people who don't share our our Christian values, would it keep us engaged in the goals of what you're trying to do? You know, like election integrity, like getting our public servants back into the box of our constitution. These sort of things will that appeal to God, keep them engaged in the ultimate goals of what we are trying to do, which is to get them back to our constitutional republic as it was designed by our founders.
So you've been asking, that's a lot of asking.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Debbie. I'm sorry.
And I was enthralled. I'm like, well, that's awesome, Leon. Okay, let's just say the California Constitution does mention God, that God is the one that gives us our rights, not government. We have to sort through this, okay? What kind of a government do we want to have? Do we want to have a government? Is it right or wrong? Do we want a government where you're guilty until proven innocent or innocent until proven guilty? Now, which is right and wrong? Come on. Just as simple as that. What kind of country do you want to live in?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I accept your answer to that. I really do. Okay.
I'm trying to keep it very simple. We have a lot of people that have come from a lot of different cultures.
Yes.
But God can be construed, but if we change it to the Creator, that I think is accurate, because I don't know anyone that's created themselves. But what we're learning in our studies is that our rights come from our Creator. And it says in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. We have the same rights. And so honestly, the people in France have the same God-given rights. In Russia, they have the same God-given rights. In Ecuador, they have the same God-given rights. We're all equal in the world. And I really believe that there's going to be a worldwide awakening, and we're all going to come together and say, you know what, this tyranny is over the top. We want to go with liberty, like the founding fathers said. We want to be on the right side.
Well, Debbie, that brings up, well, I was just going to say that brings up a question when you said around the world, because I was curious, are you guys part of a larger group outside of California, or is it just kind of local to inside of California?
Well, right now I have friends in Michigan, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Texas. Talked to a guy in South Dakota today. And so we're coming from all over the United States. But in another phase of my life, I talked to a friend in St. Petersburg, Russia every day. Not every day, every week on WhatsApp. And the fact that the internet is open and we can talk to each other about these principles and these concepts, it's really amazing. She and I have the most fabulous conversations about truth and justice and mercy and what does God want us to do? You know, does God want us to be smuggling people across the border and doing child trafficking? I mean, where do we draw the line between right and wrong? Come on, is it right or wrong?
Well, I mean, for us to have a constitutional republic, the rule of law must draw that line. And I mean, of course, we who find comfort in appeals to our Creator, I mean, we may draw our lines differently, but I think for the general public, we have to draw the line at the rule of law. I mean, you just raised the issue of the border. There's no doubt that every inch of our immigration laws are now being broken and allowed to be broken by the current administration. So those are where we have to draw those lines at the rule of law, because we can't. Anything else is tyranny. Anything else is some sort of maladministration of our republic. So I think the rule of law has to stand superior to everything else.
That's why we have been going to the Supreme Court for the last 4 years. The Supreme Court is listening to us. We have 2 brand new notices that were released this weekend. One of them addresses the maladministration around Trump's convictions, his 34 convictions. We're telling the Supreme Court, we noticed that this is unlawful, and you have 10 days to write an opinion that says it's not okay. It is not okay for our government to entertain unlawful practices. So, and then the second one we're talking to them about is the due process of law that's guaranteed in the Bill of Rights and in all of our constitutions.
Yes.
And due process has not been followed. And, they've come and they've taken our money, our cars, our children, our mortgages. I mean, they just kind of decide that they want them, and we're going to get that back. It's not okay for them to steal from we the people.
Yeah, indeed. And not only do all those things you listed are absolutely correct, but I think the most important thing that they stole is our freedoms and our liberties, which they did in the COVID lockdown, which is the most egregious demonstration of the stealing or the theft of our liberties.
And the biggest wake-up call too.
Well, the biggest wake-up call. So that's probably a good thing. So that's maybe a good thing that
Yes.
that it sparked that well, in with your organization, it sparked that rebellion inside of us to fight back against these acts of tyranny.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of rule of law, and I think we're kind of getting close to the end of the show, and I know, unfortunately, the slapped lawsuits are just going to have to get slapped to the side again. But we'll eventually get to that. Well, it needs at least 15 minutes, and we're going over already. So, but that's definitely one for another time because it's an interesting issue. But no, as far as the our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, it goes right to the issue that you're talking about rule of law. I mean, we've literally seen this weaponization of the justice system recently against Trump. Quite frankly, I mean, I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Republican, and I haven't voted for Trump in any of these elections. I've always voted libertarian, but I mean, I can see what they're doing to him. I mean, all you have to do is just have eyes to see the unfairness of what's happening, and James, maybe, or excuse me, Leon, maybe I could get the visual here. I mean, it's all over the place is starting to say this and notice this. Here's, in fact, Dr. Phil just did a whole bunch of stuff. And Dr. Phil, of course, is a sort of a well-known guy who's sort of middle of the road. A lot of people like him. And hopefully we'll find a way to get him up on the screen soon. Not a video, just the share screen, Leon. So.
No, I don't know. It's not. Oh, here we go. Here
okay.
we go.
Yeah.
Right.
So this one is this shows Dr. Phil here, and he is saying, "Hey, look, denouncing the weaponization of the justice system," and he's also pleading with Trump too that if he gets elected, not to continue it, which is tall order. For what's been done to Trump. But Republicans are certainly kind of all coalescing. Even people like Mitt Romney are coalescing around the idea that, hey, look, the system has been weaponized against Trump. Here's an article from Alan Dershowitz. This is kicking off a war of weaponization, because we've gone into this terrible territory where, administrations are weaponizing the justice system. And here's Glenn Greenwald, the Biden DOJ and Democrat prosecutors are transparently weaponizing the legal system and judicial system against their political enemies for partisan ends. And one of the funniest ones I thought was Dennis Quaid says, oh darn, trying to get that thing to come up, says weaponization of the justice system pushed Quaid to vote for Trump. He says he's my a-hole. So even people who didn't like him before are just saying, my God, I can't believe what's happening. This just isn't right. And so that's, of course, Dennis Quaid, the actor, sort of coming to Trump's defense. But I thought the craziest thing, and this is really our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, is what happened recently when Biden was asked about this after Trump was convicted of this absolutely kangaroo court in New York that just, it seems like they created laws out of thin air to go after him on. But here was the question: after he'd got 34 counts for essentially paying a prostitute to be quiet, with what Trump paid for, apparently. That's allegedly. And here is Biden when asked. So this is KNP1. Leon, can you play this video?
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
So just absolutely horrible. There is a thought running rampant around the country that the justice system has been weaponized against a person running for office, and he just smiles at the camera when asked about it. I can't imagine anything more horrible. What do you guys think about this? This time he didn't even say anything, and we've got him in our Knucklehead Noise Patrol because what he said with his smile was.
I'm not sure. Question registered in his brain, one way or another. I'm not so sure he even heard it coherently, understood it, or anything, because it just doesn't look like he knows what's going on from one moment to the next. I mean, so that, playing devil's advocate, that's where I would put my bet. I mean, but who knows what went on in his brain, but precious little seems to go on.
Give him more credit than me, but
yeah, that's true. Debbie, what do you have to say about this? What do you have to say about this?
Well, that'd make a great mugshot. Hey, Trump's got one. Why can't he have one?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Maybe Biden can take a tip. Or I mean, Hunter Biden can take a tip.
Yeah.
I know I'm being funny, but the other thing is, where did we the people grant the authority of immunity to our servants? One of the things that we're reading about is you can't delegate something that you don't have. When did we get immunity? Did God give us immunity for the things that we do? Well, then how can we the people grant that to our authorities in the Constitution?
And so when you say that, do you mean should Trump be immune? Should Biden be immune? How exactly do you mean that, I guess?
So the Supreme Court was discussing this a couple months ago.
They will lay out an opinion later on this month.
Yes. And both sides were arguing, and they said, we have to have immunity. Otherwise, a president that lies about weapons of mass destruction in a country, and that's why we have to invade that country, and then we find out that wasn't true. I mean, we would have held that president accountable. And I'm sitting there going, really? That doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. I mean, I'm really thinking about this from a lot of different perspectives. It's like, why can't we hold our government accountable for atrocious things that they've done around the world? Why do they have immunity to just go and kill civilians with drones and not have any,
And the term they've been given to this, and this has been debated a lot around the defund the police movement, was qualified immunity. So that was the thing that everybody's been. But yeah, exactly. I mean, why should somebody who does something horrible in the name of the state be immunized for it?
Well, the maxims of law say that you cannot delegate something that you don't have. And we, the people, never got immunity from God. We are accountable for our actions individually. That's why we have to look inside and go, hey, is this the proper thing to do? Is this the right way to go? That's what I mean. We need to get back to that. We can't be just running on autopilot. We're all being tested one day at a time.
And I agree. But we are in a little bit of murky water here, okay? Because
okay.
The on one hand, you are right, Debbie, about this immunity issue, but on the other hand, there are Supreme Court rulings. I'm talking about the federal Supreme Court here, ruling that what we call executive privilege that immunes the president from some, like, disclosing certain things, and then also immunes him depending on the conduct, on certain conduct in completing his official duties. Now, these are Supreme Court rulings, so it's really a part of the rule of law. Now, if we on one hand gonna be, well, we gonna draw lines at the rule of law, well, that will put that whole thing about immunity and executive privilege in one box, and we're going to be in that other box, that where we think there's something wrong with that whole system. So in a sense, there's a part of the rule of law that allows some of our elected officials to escape accountability. That's what's really going on. So the question is, should we remove some of those, like executive privilege and things like that, or the power to pardon will be another issue from our elected officials. Should the president not be able to pardon? Should the president not have executive privilege? Should the president not be able to be immune from actions taken in the completion of his official duties? These are all questions that we'll have to ask. Where do we draw this new line that we want to draw?
That's very important. And you're right. It is murky waters. I don't have all the answers. I'm praying every day for clarity. It seems to me that there's a lot of things I don't know about our national defense, the weapons that we have that are still secret, that we, the people, do not even know about. Those types of things are keeping secrets from us. Is that a good thing? Because we're trusting them to take care of our national security. But when we see them, like 58 people sign a letter saying this is true, and then 4 years later we find out it's not.
Right.
How are we? Where's our trust? It's kind of like once trust is taken, it's very hard to get back.
Yeah. Well, and more to the point, I mean, like Snowden, I think, and we talked about a quote from Glenn Greenwald, who was the guy who was essentially telling Snowden's story. He literally blew the lid off of the fact that the government lied to us about spying on us. And in the end, Snowden winds up being exiled to Russia. And the guy who was doing the lying, the guy who was the chief of the NSA or whichever organization, whichever shadowy organization it was, he has a gig on CNN. He gets paid tons of money to sit there and just spread more lies to the public. It's absolutely nuts. But, I like the idea, too, of the qualified immunity thing, ending it, because if we were to do that, you can better believe that they would simplify government, because if nobody understands what the heck's going on and they're all worried they're going to get in trouble, they will simplify government in a heartbeat to make sure that they don't accidentally cross the line and break any laws. So
I would not have a problem if government officials are required to have insurance against malpractice, just like doctors do. And then the marketplace will be determined if the insurance company want to pay for some of these things. Let the marketplace decide those things. Yeah. Government officials, all of them should have these things.
When the insurance company can't figure it out, sorry, David, the insurance company can't figure it out because it's so complicated. That's a big price signal sign to us that the system is too complicated. Sorry, Debbie, go ahead.
I was going to say, those insurance companies, they know what's right and wrong. They have a real finger on, when to pay out and when not to pay out. And
right.
I like your idea, Leon. That's great.
I wonder if Trump could get insured. But I have to remind everyone about the war stuff. And the authorization for the use of military force did have a vote. Okay, fine, but it's been extended and extended and redone and extended and extended, because I will remind you that the last time Congress voted, the people that are supposed to have their the ability to declare war. I know Leon disagrees with me on this, but I just will remind you, the last time Congress voted to start a war was in World War II on December 8th, 1941. That's been a long time. Since then, I will also remind you that except for Korea, where it's still ongoing, there's just a truce right at the moment, an armistice. But every single one of those wars of invasion of occupation, bar none, we've lost. Every single one. Okay, so just want to remind you of those two facts. Maybe Congress ought to do their job and kind of spread the whole blame around a little bit instead of centering it at the top, or the top-down central planning of a executive, chief executive, making all the decisions about whether or not we go bomb people and invade their countries. Maybe that might be a good thing. And what does that require? That they strictly follow the Constitution and not rely on all this nonsense, these 66-word, one-page, decades-old documents to go willy-nilly wherever they want to go, to do whatever they want to do to whoever they want to do it to.
Well, and Tim, aside from these police actions that they don't call wars, they have emergencies that go on forever. I mean, they take an emergency action that never ends. I mean, by the definition of an emergency is something short-term that's unforeseeable, and they foresee their emergency powers needs just never end, as we saw with COVID.
So it's very convenient.
Yes, and it's legislation by executive order. That is not in the Constitution. We did not delegate. We the people did not delegate power to the executive branch to govern by executive order.
You know, that's a great place, it sounds like, to kind of end it off on. And I did want to ask you, Debbie, as we leave, is your organization also looking into other issues beside voter fraud? Because I know you guys went to we talked to you the first time, and you guys went to the county, I think it was the Citrus Heights County Board, but I can't remember what the issue is off the top of my head. But it seems like you guys are really looking at a whole bunch of issues. It seems like, not just election integrity. Did you want to mention any of the other things you guys are thinking about?
There were so many that we were getting a little scattered. So we picked 4. The first one is medical freedom. We have liberty interests in our health. The second one was election maladministration. And we're going to be working on parental rights come from God, not government. That's our next notice. And then the fourth one we're looking at is the Second Amendment.
Okay. Well, let me, Leanne, can you bring up the page real quick? I just want to show some of these links that Debbie's organization has. So here was a slide, a call to action, and it talks about the Constitution discussion group, their webpage. So, you know, you can take down all this information and go find out more. And like I said, I've been to a couple of their meetings, not the Committee of Safety, but their Constitution discussion group. And it is a very nice, welcoming group. So you're very welcome to come and meet with them. And they are going to have a Constitution Day celebration in September. So put that on your calendar as well. And here are some of the other pages. This again is the Constitution class page, the Committee for Safety page, and their new web page as well. So Debbie, any final words that you wanted to leave the audience with before we leave?
Well, I would just say that God bless America, God bless our counties, and God bless each one of us, because we're all we the people. We need to come together in unity.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Debbie. And if you're watching out there and you just seen this, you know, this is stuff that is doable wherever you're living. And I mean, if you're thinking about ways you can get involved in the fight for liberty, contact Debbie, find out what they're doing, or you know, run for a school board seat or something. Figure out what you can do in your community to try and move the ball for liberty. Because if you don't get up and get off the couch, we're watching them erode. They are coming after our liberties, and you know, it's not pretty. So yeah, do what you can, and check out some of the other conversations we've had. We've interviewed a lot of different people doing a lot of different things, running for office and other things. So you can check out their experiences and the lessons they've learned. But until the next time, think about what you can do. Until then, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Thank
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.